I am the disabled guy with the disabled life. This podcast is going to be about disabled issues and other things that interest me and others from the disabled community. I did this so that people understand what we go through in life and what we do, because a lot of what we do, it is interesting. I'm also going to talk a little bit about ADA and things of that nature. It's something that's very important to me and something that I learned a lot about when I did an episode. I'm going to talk more about it. Okay. This podcast, it's going to come out at 10 p.m. Saturday and Wednesday. So that's when that's when I think most people listen. Most people listen at night or have the episodes there for the daytime. So let me stop this. Stop. Elizabeth, thank you for joining me. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you, Leonard, and yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy to have you back for a third time today, I believe.
I think it's only the second, isn't it? Although
you
did speak once on my show as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, second time. So I've heard. So you told me that you had that you were training a new dog.
That is correct. We're recording this in October,
right?
2024,
right?
And in August 2024, I went on training to be partnered with a new guide dog, and that was after my previous dog Fiji passed away late last year. So I've been working with my new dog now for a few months, and we thought it might be fun to chat about the whole experience of getting to learn and with a new guide dog and the training that happens on the guide dog training class that we're certainly here in South Africa.
Yeah. Actually, you answered my first question there. The reason for that. Yeah. So I can see you're an experienced podcaster. Okay, so how long is the training?
How long was the training?
Right.
Okay, what I'm going to tell you about is what happened here with the training with the South African Guide Dog Association for the Blind.
Yes.
And it may be different from the guide dog training schools in the USA. I don't actually know. So bear in mind that the class that I went on, and it was, I think every class is different.
Mm-hmm.
So our class was a 2-week training, and it was up in Johannesburg, which was the main training center for the South African Guide Dog Association for the Blind. They also have a training center in Cape Town, which is the city that I live in. But the dog that they wanted to partner me with was a Johannesburg dog, and it was just quicker and more convenient for me to be able to go up to there. So yeah, as I say, it is a South African situation. Normally in Johannesburg, I think depending on the specifics of the people coming on class, sometimes the classes are 3 weeks, sometimes they may be 2 weeks. Now our class was 6 people, all of whom had several guide dogs already. So we kind of knew the basics of working with the dog. We know the basics of looking after the dog, and they felt that a 2-week period for the class would be long enough. So yeah, we went up for a 2-week class.
Question: do you actually live there for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever the case may be?
Yeah, in this case, the training center in Johannesburg is a residential center where you stay for the duration of the training class, and it's a complex where you have, you have your accommodation is there. They have rooms for each of the people on the class, and they have catering facilities. So, they have house parents who look after you, so they will feed you and look after you. And then apart from that, you are staying in a room with a separate little ensuite bathroom. And it's a really nice setup. At the South African Guide Dogs Association for the Blind actually trains guide dogs, service dogs, and autism support dogs for young children who can benefit from the being accompanied by a trained animal with them. So the facilities are set up to accommodate people in wheelchairs, people like me who are blind, partially blind, and I'm not certain how the training of the autism support dogs takes place, but certainly the guide dog training and the service dog trainings for people in wheelchairs and people who use dogs for mobility and balance, that is usually done at the training center.
Oh, they have balance dogs too. They teach.
I know of at least one that is used to assist with balance. It's based here in Cape Town, and that particular dog is a standard poodle, so the big poodle.
Yeah, the big, huge guy.
And they're big dogs, and Philippe looks after his owner Janice really well and helps her balance and as she's walking and going up steps and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. For my listeners, a balance dog is considered not a guide dog but a service dog.
That's correct. Yeah.
You brought me right into that question.
The difference.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
You brought me right into that question. Go ahead.
Well, what is the difference?
Yeah.
So the difference between the guide dog and the service dog, and this is, as I say, I'm just a layperson. I'm not a trainer. I'm not schooled in all the details and things like that. But as a person who is a guide dog user, a handler, my sense is that a guide dog is there to guide somebody around who may need visual support. So the guide dog will watch for obstacles, alert to steps or obstacles in the pathway, and there's all sorts of things that they will help to let you know about. And they will also help you to find specific spots that you need to know. For example, if there is a crossing at a road and there's a robot, which I think in South Africa we call traffic lights, with a buzzer, because not all lights in South Africa have buzzers, have audio buzzers. So if you have to press the buzzer to make it work, they will then alert to where that crossing is and let you know where the buzzer box is so that you can activate it. On the other side, a service dog is there to provide assistance to a person in a wheelchair. They can often fetch things, carry things. The dogs are trained to pick things up if they fall. They can be trained to help a wheelchair user who has perhaps fallen out of their chair and maybe struggling to get back into the chair independently. So they are trained to assist with tasks like that, where they are assisting for giving assistance to the person in the wheelchair.
Something interesting that you told me when you said that that the balance dog was a standard poodle. I'll tell you a little quick story. I watched a video of a disabled, an interabled couple. She was a therapist in OT, and he was a paraplegic. I went there, so they got to know each other. Now they're married and all. And he had a standard poodle as a service dog.
Okay.
Yeah, no. So a question to you. Okay, what happens if you don't? You told me this, but I'm asking for my listeners. What happens if there's a hole or something, and you insist that the dog go through there, walk you through an obstacle path?
The dog should refuse to go forwards if there's something like a hole in the road or things like that. And I mean, way back when I first started using a guide dog, this Normandy, my new dog, is actually my 4th guide dog. And my very first guide dog, I can remember my dog stopping on a sidewalk. And I had no idea why she was stopping. And she essentially refused to go, and I was trying to listen to work out what might be stopping her or causing her to stop. I couldn't hear anything, so I assumed that my dog was just being difficult, and I stepped directly forward, and I took one step and I was fine, and then I took a second step and fell into a hole. So the dogs, she did what she was trained to do. She alerted me to the fact that there was a dangerous obstacle. If I had been trusting my dog, as I should have done, she would have guided me onto a safe path around that hole. But because I was stubborn and decided that she was clearly wrong because I couldn't make out what she was doing, I therefore disregarded what she was telling me and put myself into danger. Now, I didn't get hurt. The hole was the depth of my knees or my shins. So I didn't get hurt, but it gave me quite a fright.
I can imagine if you don't see and all of a sudden you fall down, you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
It's interesting how they know what's going on, and they're very obedient. They listen to people.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
So now, because I know here in the United States, they will bring a guide dog trainer over to your place of residence or where you work, and they teach the dog how to go around those places. Do they do that in South Africa?
So they teach you all. Okay, there are a number of different ways that the training can take place. When you go into the residential center, you spend your time there where you learn the basics. You start to build the relationship and the bond with the dog. And you and the dog learn to work together. Then when the class is finished, you come back into your home environment with your new guide dog, and the trainers then do what they call aftercare, and aftercare is where they orientate the dog into your home environment, into the routes that you do normally, so that you and the dog can learn the best and safest ways to do those routes. Now, in my case, I've done different routes with each dog. When I was working with my first two dogs, I was working in an office in a marine engineering company, and the dog had to take me to the train station. We had to catch the train and then arrive at the other end in the town where I was working. We then walked to the office, and she stayed there at my desk while I worked, and then we did the return trip back home. By the time I got my third dog, I was self-employed, so I was working in my own business, working from home. So my dog learnt routes only, I suppose I should be using the American routes, only around my home. So we learnt the way to the local shopping centre, and we learnt a few other short destinations in and around the neighbourhood in which I'm living, in the suburb. This new dog, I decided to try something a little bit different, and the trainers taught him to find specific shops in quite a big shopping centre, shopping mall that is not exactly close to me. I usually have to travel there by my motor vehicle, and then we find our way into the shopping centre and we go to the various shops that we regularly use. And the other route that he's learned is he's learned in the local hospital where my doctors have their consulting rooms. Mm-hmm. He's learned how to guide me into that centre and then up to their consulting rooms. So those are different routes that I didn't learn with my previous dogs. And I will say he's doing them really incredibly well, and I'm loving having the extra independence that I can do these things now on my own without sighted assistance.
I got a question for you. How friendly are people when I mean people in businesses to guide dogs?
That can really depend quite a lot. It varies quite broadly, and a lot of it depends on culture as well. So where I'm staying, dogs are, in the community that I'm living, dogs are pretty much, most people have dogs, they're familiar with dogs, they are comfortable with dogs, so the dogs are pretty much welcome anywhere. Every now and then, if I go to a restaurant or go into a shop, I may get stopped by a security guard, as we have security officers at most of our shopping centres and things like that. But for the most part, I don't usually have problems. I may also experience a few challenges using ride-share services like Uber, or I think Lyft is another US one, but it's not here in South Africa. And that turns out that it's actually quite a global problem from what I'm seeing online, that there are often challenges when you want to take your working animal into the Uber or the rideshare service with you. And I find my preferred service provider of the rideshare service is Uber. It's the one I'm most familiar with using. Mm-hmm. And in Cape Town, they have a group within the Uber platform called Uber Assist, where the drivers are trained to give additional support to people with disabilities or people who may need extra help. And generally they are trained to work with the guide dogs. They know that they are likely to get guide dogs and service dogs in the vehicles, and they are trained and they are okay with that. So a lot of it has to do with awareness, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And in communities where animals are familiar and people are aware that guide dogs are what they do and what they are, there is greater levels of acceptance. I do know in other areas in South Africa they have bigger challenges than I do in my home city.
Let me ask you a question about the rideshare, because Uber here is a private vehicle that a person uses to work. Is that the same thing in South Africa?
Yes, it is.
Okay, let me talk about a little bit of challenge that I have. Okay, if you go into a Uber, right? Here in the United States, they don't have the Uber Assist, so there could be a problem. There could be a problem with that. But if you go into a regular taxi cab, they have to take it. They have to take the dog.
We have a much greater challenge, I think, with services and infrastructure services like public transport and paratransport and things like that. And I can't honestly say that I have used a typical taxi or cab service in South Africa, so I can't really comment on what that experience may be like. My understanding is that in Uber they are meant to let guide dogs and service dogs in. That part of the policies, part of the legislation and the rights protected by things like the Americans with Disabilities Act should be that a working animal like a guide or service dog is an assistance. It's assistive technology rather than a dog. And because of that there should be access. But I do know that a number of the guide dog schools in the USA and a number of the organizations have recently started exploring this. And I thought the statistics that they shared were really, really scary, that something like 80-something% or 90-something%, I'm afraid I don't remember the exact figure, but to that degree that people had been having bad experiences, refusals, delays, and things like that with rideshare services. And that makes it really difficult for those of us who are moving around independently with our guide dogs and service dogs, because it's not just a dog that you take with you because you wish to have your dog with you. It's an assistant. It's an assistive technology.
It's part of you.
So if we're deprived of our dogs, again, most of us have at least basic mobility, orientation and mobility skills using a white cane. But, it becomes a challenge.
Because I say, why use it if you have a pair of eyes that can help you?
Absolutely true.
Why use your cane when you have a pair of eyes that can tell you, hey, you're going to go into a step. Careful.
Yeah, that is so true.
Let me ask you this question. What about hotels and places like that? Because they're finicky.
Again, I'm not really much of a hotel user here in South Africa. Even when I travel now, I mostly use other facilities like Airbnb and guest houses and things like that. But a lot of the facilities should be both accepting of and be able to assist with having a guide dog as an assistive technology.
And I think they're required.
Well, yes, they are required. Here in South Africa, we possibly have less enforcement. We don't have legal protection like you do in America. We don't have a South African equivalent of the Americans with Disabilities Act protecting our rights here in South Africa. So, yes, there is right of access. And yes, guide dogs are allowed to go into more venues than most animals are. But, and are often well accepted. But we don't have that legal protection, and we do sometimes run into problems with that. I can certainly say that for me as a conference speaker, I go to hotels quite regularly, to conference centers and hotels and that type of venue, but mostly into the meeting rooms or the big auditorium halls, things like that. And there, I've not had a problem having my guide dog with me. So it's okay. I haven't had any problems with those so far.
You know, because I'll tell you, what has ever, as a security guard at a store or something, ever said, no, you can't go in with this dog?
Oh yeah. I've only had that happen once so far with my new dog, but I've had it happen a number of times over the years with my various guide dogs. And we're taught a whole process of how to manage it, how to work with it, because the last thing you want to do is to start fighting and approach it in the wrong way, because that will just build up more problems. So usually, if a security guard at a store says to me, no dogs are allowed, I say, thank you so much. Is it possible for you to call your supervisor? And okay, this is my preferred way of dealing with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people are a little less flexible about it, that they just kind of go past and just go straight into the store and go and say it's allowed and go in. And I know that some people prefer doing it that way. My preference is to rather make everybody comfortable with the situation and use it as a learning opportunity for the security guard. Because I think it can happen in some cases that a security guard has been told no dogs are allowed in the store. And it may be difficult for them to understand exactly what the difference is between this dog and just any other pet dog.
Let me ask you this question. I forgot to ask you. I'm going to go here now. What, if any, designation do they have on? Do you put a vest on them or something?
Well, that is a very important part of it as well. So, in South Africa, a guide dog wears a guide dog harness that has a sign on it saying, please do not distract, working animal. It also has an official guide dog's name tag on its collar, and it's wearing a lead, a harness, and the tag. And in order to get any kind of protection in South Africa, for the Guide Dogs Association to approach the organization, which is the worst case scenario. If your security guard is not prepared to let you in, if the supervisor is not prepared to let you in, you basically step away and contact the South African Guide Dogs Association for the Blind, and they will then negotiate with the shopping center or the store or whatever place it was that you had challenges, and they will do education and awareness building. So in that situation where there is, the dog needs to be wearing its harness, its tag, and its lead. I also carry a card with me that explains what a guide dog is and some of the access situations, how a dog can be used. And finally, I have an identity card that identifies that this is a trained official guide dog. It's a working animal. It is not a retired animal. And that it lists the paragraph from the South African law that says that working animals are exempt from the normal laws that exclude animals from places where there is food. So there's a number of different ways that I have to be identified as a guide dog handler, guide dog owner, and that the dog that I'm using is a currently working dog, because the same rights are not extended to retired guide and service animals.
No, because they're no longer working. Am I correct on that?
That is correct. They are dogs at that point. They may still be well trained, and they may hate the fact that they are no longer working, but they really are. They are retired.
Because what is the way the United States works is they can only ask if that dog is a guide dog and no more, which I kind of disagree with, because that causes conflict. You know?
I can't really comment on. I mean, that may be an American requirement.
Yeah, that's the American law.
Yeah, I don't think, as I said, we don't have the same levels of protection that you do.
But what I'm saying is, it's better to tell people, hey, this is a guide dog. It does this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it helps to build awareness, doesn't it?
Right. I'm going to give you a quick example. I had a friend of mine that's blind. He was a guide dog user. He brought his guide dog to the house. We have a pet. We had a pet. A big golden lab. She was nice, but imagine a dog walks into your house, to the dog's house. What is it going to do? What is my dog going to do?
Well, I can assume it barked.
Yeah, it's going to want to bark. Yeah, it's going to want to bark, right? But you know what?
For sure. I mean, it's your dog's territory, and some dogs are quite used to other dogs coming into their territories, but some dogs aren't. I mean, I had that actually with Normandy, my new dog, when I brought him home, and we have 3 other dogs here in the house, in the family, and they are all rescue dogs. Okay. And one of our dogs, our little boy dog, he decided that he did not like having another male dog on his territory.
Oh no.
And we've had to work very, very strictly with him, with the two boys, to just smooth down that situation and calm it down, and to see how we can make them live together in the same house without there being any conflict. And it's still a work in progress. I've had Normandy now at home for around just over 2 months, and it still is something that we're having to work on. So it does take time.
Yeah, because you don't want to have constant dog arguments, do you?
Exactly. And it's not fair on the dogs as well.
No, it's very, so it was funny because the guide dog that came here backed up. She said, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, because the guide dogs are usually not assertive dogs.
No.
And they are not confrontational. They are not aggressive.
Mm-mm.
So that will be typically how they respond. They will avoid the situation. I will say I have been so grateful to the trainers from the South African Guide Association for the Blind that they have been working with me to help my other dog accept my guide dog, because they don't want there to be problems for the guide dogs that they've trained. They want there to be a smooth transition. So they work with you, and it was one of the things that they've introduced into the training, which has changed over the last few years. They now do what they call dog introductions. When they introduce your dog, your guide, into your environment, if you have dogs, they will help to introduce the dog into the environment. And I'm really grateful. And they've been fantastic.
Yeah.
The trainers are there to help with any challenges that I've had. I can just pick up the phone and call them, or email them, or WhatsApp them, or message them and say, help, I'm having problems with this. And they will send a trainer to work with me to solve that problem.
Oh, so
and that kind of support and that ongoing support is amazing.
Because it's unfair to the guide dog if you bring them into another dog's house and because
it can take some time. Yeah.
They can because it was your pet's house and you brought an intruder in. That's what they look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't understand that dog's helping you.
And to be fair, I mean, generally our dogs are all fairly well socialized, because we do walk them in not so much a dog park, but we have a large open kind of field area close to us,
right,
by a lake.
Mm-hmm.
And there are always people walking their dogs in that area. So the dogs that we have are fairly well socialized with other dogs, but still that is not seen as their territory. So, it's something that I've never had to deal with before. Having a dog who is sufficiently territorial that he or she, I guess, can happen with the girls as well, that they feel the need to protect their territory. But it often does happen with rescue dogs, and this particular dog is a rescue who has.
Where do they get them? Where do they get the dogs from? The guide dog training. Where do they get them from?
In South Africa, the South African Guide Dogs Association for the Blind is actually running an entire training program. and it is overseen by the center that trains veterinary doctors. So they oversee the breeding program, and to make certain that the gene pool is broad enough that genetic issues do not creep into the dogs that are bred. What does happen, from what I understand, is that several of the guide dog training centers across the world, who also have their own breeding programs, that they are sharing the genetics. So, just as an example, my previous dog, Fiji, who was a blonde Labrador crossed with a golden retriever, Fiji's dad, her sire, was an American-born black Labrador, and her mom was a golden retriever. And my new dog, Normandy, who's a black Labrador, his parents are both black Labradors, and his sire is an Australian Labrador. So each dog that they're breeding for specific characteristics, personality traits that will help the dogs to work well.
Yeah, and also they don't want health issues at the end. They don't want health issues.
For sure.
Good.
So as whenever they encounter a genetic concern that is more than just a single dog, but if they see that a specific line of the training, the breeding program, may be developing certain challenges, certain problems, they may stop breeding that particular pair of dogs.
That makes sense.
I don't understand the genetics to even too much detail, but it's a really carefully overseen breeding program that looks at all sorts of factors, and it's really quite amazing.
I'm happy they do it that way, because it takes away health issues for your. You don't want to have a stress of, my dog's going to get sick on this problem.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to be cautious of that anyway, because dogs do get sick. That just happens. But certain genetic issues can be... I mean, Labradors as big dogs... Okay, so in South Africa at least... Generally, the guide dogs that are bred are Labradors or Golden Retriever Labrador crosses. I don't actually think they're using purebred Golden Retrievers at the moment for the genetic reasons, pretty much.
Yep.
But I don't know for sure why they, and I may be wrong about this, but the dogs that they use can often have a tendency, it depends, on developing problems with their hips, particularly if the dogs get overweight. And if they find that there are hip problems happening more commonly on one line of the breeding program, they take that into consideration, or they may stop that particular line. So they're trying to monitor as much of the genetic things that can go wrong as they can. But like I said, I mean, I'm not a vet. I'm not trained in genetics. And my understanding is only second or third hand from what I was told by the trainers. So, yeah.
Because dogs can
They do a
get
lot of
sick. Because dogs can get sick like we do, get sick with a cold or something, something weird like that.
Yeah, I don't know specifically if dogs can get colds, but or the common, the flu, but yeah, there are conditions that dogs can develop.
I, for one, know that they can get colds. They can get what they call a dog cold. We don't get it, but our lab, the one that I was telling you about, it all of a sudden had diarrhea and was sneezing and everything, and we're like, what's going on with it? And we took it to the vet, and the vet knows, oh no, it has a cold.
Oh, shame. Poor thing. Because I don't know that dogs understand. At least with a human over, provided they are over a certain age and have a certain cognitive ability, they understand what's caused the sickness. But, a dog can't understand.
So we had to give it, just for example, we had to give it child medicine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no. So they can get colds. I'm like, hey, I didn't know that myself.
Yeah.
When my mom came home and said, oh.
Neither did I.
When my mom came home and said it has a cold, I'm like, what? Yeah. It's interesting how you do you have cats?
I don't. We used to, but we don't currently.
The reason I ask about cats is because I know cats and dogs are enemies, supposedly.
Well, I think that's a general...
Yeah.
And it's not always the case. We've had cats. We had 2 cats who got on really well with our dogs.
Yeah, because these dogs... let me ask you, what happens when you if you're walking around and the dog wants to go after a cat? What do you do?
Remember, the dog's on a harness and on a leash, and the dogs are really good. They are not trained to follow their chase instinct. So, for the most part, the dog may get a little bit excited and be very aware of the cat, but they should not chase the cat. I will say my previous dog, Fiji, had a really interesting relationship. In the area where I live, there's lots of trees and things like that, and we have squirrels. And they're little squirrels, smaller than a cat, very much smaller than a cat, and they scamper around, and dogs generally love to chase the squirrels.
Yeah, because they're running around.
Yeah, and Fiji used to be really super aware of any squirrel that was in her vicinity. But she was really good. I could feel from her body would shake with excitement. And she'd be so tempted to chase those squirrels. But she would just put her head down and just go, I'm working, I have to focus, and she would put one paw in front of the other. And she would keep following her route. Her discipline was exceptional. Now, I don't know if Normandy, my current new dog, has encountered a squirrel.
Oh, no.
So I don't know what his response will be like. I have seen him get quite excited when he approaches other dogs, but he does control it, and I help him to control it by just calming him down, reassuring him, holding onto the harness a little bit tighter in the leash, and just saying to him, it's okay, straight past, leave it, straight past, and just reinforcing that he's a good dog. So we're taught how to handle things like that anyway.
So those were the dog commands that you give him when he's doing something that you don't want.
We are taught how to handle that type of situation. Some of the dogs, all the dogs are unique. They're all individuals, and they all have their own strengths and weaknesses. So I do notice that Normandy gets dog distraction. That's the official name of it. And I think it's not helped by the fact that he and one of our little dogs at home are best friends.
Oh.
And they play constantly. So whenever he sees a dog, he goes, "Ooh, can I play with this dog?" And it's really just about reinforcing that, no, when you're on harness, you are working. Even when we get home and you are still on harness, you are a working dog. And even your best pal, Avery, you have to ignore her. So it's about reinforcing the good behaviors that you want and working your way past the negative behaviors. It's not about punishing the dog. You don't ever punish your dog. At least not here in South Africa.
No.
I don't know of any guide dog training school that encourages you to smack your dog, or even yelling at your dog can be problematic. So yeah, it's about reinforcing positive behavior, rewarding positive behavior, and letting the dog know that, that's the good stuff that's expected of them. And they do get a tiny little food reward, or they get positive reinforcement by being patted and praised. So there's all sorts of good rewards that come to them when they do what you want them to do.
Because I know of my friend that's blind told me that he was at a guide school one time. One of my friends that was blind, of two. And so he heard of a lady that was hitting his dog and putting cigarettes on him. So what they did is so they took the dog away and they sent her home.
Well, certainly here in South Africa, when you qualify at the end of your class, your guide dog training class, you sign a contract which lays out what is expected of you as the guide dog handler and the conditions under which you will look after the dog. And if you contravene that contract, they do have the right to remove the dog because you have broken the contract. And I think it's there to protect the dogs,
right?
So they can, and they do checks, they do spot checks, they don't do spot checks, but they phone you and say, we're coming to check, how is the dog working, how are things going, and it also gives them an opportunity to see how you are caring for the dog. If the dog is not fed properly, or if it's overweight, or if it's being misused, or mistreated, they can take that dog away. And I'm totally comfortable with the Guide Dogs Association knowing and having that ability, so they know that the animals that they've spent a huge amount of time and expense in training, in breeding, and getting everything, ready, that their dogs are well looked after. So yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no, but when my friend told me about this lady that was putting cigarettes on the dog, I was terrified. I was freaked out.
You hear some horror stories about the way people treat their animals.
It's like, why?
It really distresses me intensely.
Yeah, when I said that, you go, I heard your sign. I'm like, I know why she feels this way. Because it's part of you. It's a part of you that helps you. You don't want to hurt it.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't want it to get hurt. And question,
exactly.
Who pays for, like, if the dog needs to go to the vet for shots and things like that? You pay for that, or does the association pay?
Different countries handle it in different ways. Here in South Africa, so the vet that I'm with now gives me a discounted rate on any medication, on the vaccinations, on vet visits and things like that, on consultations. So all of the vets do handle it in their own ways. The Guide Dog Association cannot take up the cost of looking after the animals. They do now require us to get insurance, and it can be part of the insurance as well that your vet costs are covered. It used to be that any unusual costs, like operations, if your dog gets injured and needs an operation, if their health deteriorates and then they need surgery, that the Guide Dog Association may help. I'm not saying they will, I don't know. I've never had to ask. And I've never had to depend on the association. I know I am in a position where my finances are a lot more stable than some people that have guide dogs. But it is one of the reasons that I think they're now insisting that you do make certain that you have insurance for your guide dog for that kind of cost. In other countries, things are different. I know in some countries, your dog food is covered, your vet's bills are covered, your vet's medication, anything like that you need for the dog is covered. We don't have that luxury here in South Africa, but they do. The Guide Dog Association does what they can.
And because here in the U.S., it's completely up to you. It's like if I take my pet, it's like if I take my cats to the vet, we pay for it.
Yeah, of course.
That's the same way. They may give you a discount for something, but but that's on them. They don't have to do that.
Yeah, that is true. Yes.
They don't have to do that because that's something, But I can see both sides of it.
Well, look, I mean, there is a difference between a pet animal that is your choice to have the animal,
right,
and the responsibilities that comes with pet ownership, and a guide dog or a working dog, a service dog that you have that is it's still a choice, but yeah, it is there to assist you.
But let me ask you this question that I came up with. How about when you go to the hospital or doctors, how do they approach the dog sitting in the consultation room with you? Do they like that, or do they get upset, or how do they deal with that?
Well, that will depend on the doctor, I guess. But I have never. Okay, the doctors that I go to are very accepting of my animals. I have not taken a guide dog with me if I've ever needed to go into hospital, because I would be in a hospital bed, so I would not be able to care for the dog. I am fortunate that I have a very good support system who would be able to assist and look after that dog, and who would step in if, say, my husband was needing to go and do something, and we wouldn't, can't be there for the dog. We've got a support system of friends and family who would assist us and care for the animals. It's the same thing of having any dog, but except in this case, having your dog with you in a hospital or something like that. I don't know, because I've had the choice. I've got the ability. I've got the support system, as I say. I don't know what would happen if I didn't have that support system. Yeah.
But they do have to allow them in, don't they? Yes. If you're going for a test or something, they allow them to go in?
If I go in and do just a blood test or something like that, the dog comes with me. If I go in and I'm going to be there for longer, if I need to stay overnight or something like that, then I would probably not take the dog, because I wouldn't be in a position to look after the dog while I'm in the hospital.
To help the dog. You actually help the dog take care of itself.
Well, you still have to leash relieve the dog. You still have to give it food and water and things like that.
Yeah, it needs
the dogs aren't self-feeding.
It needs to go to the bathroom. It needs to eat.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to do an MRI when you have a dog, or no?
Well, you figure things out.
You know these, and if you tell them to sit, they will sit. They will lay down for you, won't they? Because I've seen that.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Even if they don't.
I mean, basic obedience stuff the dogs are very good at. And then they have their specialized training as well.
And they're trained not to walk away with strangers, right?
Well, that would depend on the dog.
Uh-oh. That could be a problem in a public place.
No, I mean, the dogs are very strongly bonded to you.
Right.
But they wouldn't none of the dogs that I've had would refuse to walk away with someone that they didn't know. They would be unwilling to do so, but they might still do it.
Or they might be confused.
Of course they would.
Yeah, thank
you. But dogs like Labradors are very loving, very friendly dogs.
Right. You can easily pet those dogs.
Yeah.
Have you ever had the experience where a little child wants to pet your dog and not supposed to?
Oh, yes. All the time. And in fact, my new dog is very partial to kids. if we're walking to our closest into one of the stores, he may walk me out of my way so that he can go and say hello to a little child.
I know that's not something you want.
Not really. So I dissuade him from doing it when I am aware that he's doing it. But sometimes, if you encounter a child, parents with a child, it's very hard to kind of say, take your child away.
Yeah. You can't do that.
Well, you can, but it doesn't really build good reputation of guide dog owners, does it?
No, because so how do you handle that when that happens?
I generally smile and just say, I'm sorry, my dog is working. Would you mind just keeping your child at a distance? And generally people are okay too. Or they will come up to me and my dog will get excited and they'll say, my child would like to say hello to your dog. Is that okay? In fact, it's not just children. It's adults too. And like, oh, can I come say hello to your dog? And generally, it depends if I'm busy, if I'm late, if I've got time. I'm usually okay, but then I make him sit, and then I keep him under control. So it depends. It really, really depends. At the moment, because he's kind of looking quite a lot to other people, because he's still quite new, so I'm tending to try and avoid that situation. But if it happens, it does happen, and it's okay.
Because I remember telling my mom when my friend came over with a dog, I said, don't. She loves to pet a dog when it comes in around. She loves dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, don't. As soon as I saw that, I would, don't do that. You're not supposed to do that.
It gets as bad with some dogs as saying, don't even look them in the eyes, because if you engage with them that much, they will want to come to you. And it really comes down to a safety factor, because if the dog's going to start looking to find other people, they're not focusing on their work. And they could walk their human partner into an obstacle or into a tree or something like that.
Some dangerous thing.
Or into the road in front of a motor car and get them both killed.
You don't want to do that.
No. So, the guide dog handlers are, I suppose each person decides how they're going to handle that situation when it comes up. Some people are really strict about not letting their dogs engage. Some people are less so. I tend to be less so. And I'm certainly not going to yell at someone for trying to approach my dog. I may yell at someone for trying to feed my dog.
Yeah, that's bad.
Well, that becomes an entirely different problem, doesn't it?
Yes. Because I know that they're not supposed to eat when they're in harness, right?
They can eat when they're unharnessed, because, I'm giving my dog treats, for rewards for when he does what I want him to do, but they're not supposed to scrounge, they're not supposed to pick up food off the floor or off the ground. So, yeah, and people are feeding them even more than that. A lot of them, if they eat things they're not used to, they get bad diarrhea.
Oh.
And It's kind of tough being blind and having a dog with diarrhea.
That could be a problem.
Yeah,
You know, it's
it
funny.
happens.
Yep.
But I'd rather prevent it if I can.
No, what happens? You said about restaurants. What happens if food drops on the floor? How does the dog react to it? Because it can happen.
Hopefully, they will ignore it.
That's
And remember, they are still on leash.
right.
So it's just a question of being aware that that food is dropped and moving the dog away. Unfortunately, some dogs are incredibly quick, and they will grab anything they can get their paws on.
Yeah. Because they know they're not supposed to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So they go. It's like a little kid. When you're not watching them, what do they do? When you're not watching, what do? They do what they want.
They will do exactly what they know they can get away, and it's especially fun if they know that they're not meant to be doing it.
Yeah, no, because it's funny I'll give you an example of what my dog did. My parents went out. I stay home. I was in my room. She was not allowed on the couch.
Yeah.
You probably know where this is going.
Oh, yeah.
I walk outside to do something, to go to the bathroom or something. What do I find? The Labrador sitting on the desk, on the couch. But it was funny because it thought nobody was home.
Oh, yeah.
So I can do what I want.
Got such a fright.
Yeah, I can do what I want. And here I come telling no. Because I'll tell you, I love dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I love them. I love animals.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you. I'm going to end this here. If you don't have anything else to say.
Great. Probably I could talk for days about my dog, but I do get it.
Yeah, I am. I don't know if you noticed it, that I have not been sipping on my coffee yet.
Oh, it must be cold by now.
No. I told my mom not to make it yet, if you know what I mean. So nice talking to you. If you find anything else that you're doing interesting that you'll find my listeners interested in, let me know.
I will do. Thank you, and thanks so much. It's been so much fun.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you for listening to my episodes. My episode will come out Monday and Wednesday. You can listen to me on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and many others, including iHeartRadio. The reason I've done this podcast is to give people a voice. Because I think that the disabled community is missing a voice. But I am in a unique position of being able to afford minimal equipment to do this. I'm going to give you my email address. If you want to contact me, is ke4key@gmail.com. And you can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, at The Disabled Guy. And a few other places where I put my episode down on Facebook too. With that, thank you for listening.